We've got a few more signings to dive into.
This offense continues to evolve as the season goes on.
Welcome into Bucs Insider, presented by Hard Rock Bets Sportsbook. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Bree Dix. We got another win to talk about. We got another just last-second stressful win. We also have more injuries to talk about. I feel like we almost could just run one of our other shows because this sounds like the story of this season. It's the last-minute dramatic wins despite having infinity injuries.
Yeah. Okay, so book it. We're done.
So that's it. That's going to do it for us this week. That's all
Watch
we need
last
to say.
week's show.
Yeah, it's the same thing. But we did have an exciting new piece of news to go along with it being a great win. We had an award given to us. What did we receive?
Yes, so Baker Mayfield was named one of the FedEx Air and Ground Players of the Week, which was well-deserved for his absolute prolific game against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
He's won 16 weekly awards now in his career.
That's not too shabby.
I was kind of hoping he'd be the NFC Offensive Player of the Week because 29 of 33, the stats you just said, and another game-winning drive.
Yeah, what's the man got to do?
But Rico Dowdle decides to run for 206 yards. So.
Well, that might do it. That's fair. That's fair. But still, I think we still believe he's done it. We've had a few awards so far this season. It's been nice of season-wide awards, which is great. So again, we're going to get into the recap of the game. But first, of course, when everybody is curious about the injury situation, which we are recording this after Thursday's practice, the actual official injury report is not out yet.
Correct.
So that'll come out later Thursday for everybody. But we do have a decent idea based on Wednesday's injury report and being out at practice today.
Yeah.
So what are some of the notable things to keep an eye on?
5 guys officially weren't practicing on Wednesday, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are 2 of them. Benjamin Morris and Zion McCollum. So you see how I doubled up the positions there, which is always a problem. And then Bucky Irving still is not ready to play with his foot and shoulder injuries. Obviously, I think the 2 big stories there are Chris Godwin landing on this list with a new injury because it's labeled as fibula. So his status is obviously in doubt, and I don't believe Mike Evans is expected back this week, so you're getting thin there.
Right.
At cornerback, Zion McCollum played last week with the thumb injury that had him on the injury report, and then at the beginning of the week got a medical procedure, had his arm in a sling and his hand bandaged, and Todd Bowles said they would decide at the end of the week if he could play this weekend. That it's a pain level thing. So there's a very good chance we'll be without Zion, but on the other hand, Jamel Dean came back to a limited fashion in practice, and Todd Bowles seemed to be pretty optimistic about him.
That's a really good sign for sure. All right, so of course, stay tuned for all of the future injury reports that'll give us more information. But if nothing else, he got Baker Mayfield, and that guy seems like it doesn't matter who's out there with him. He's going to make it happen. So tell us, Bree, what you noticed about his performance against the Seahawks.
Incredible day against the Seahawks. So just quickly on the stats, completed 29 of 33 passes for 379 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, earning a 134.7 passer rating. And then I loved this, but according to CBS, Mayfield is the first quarterback in NFL history with 375 plus passing yards and fewer than 5 incompletions in a regular season game. There's 2 guys that have done it in the postseason. But I think the biggest thing for me was just the surgical precision and the timing. For me, it was his touchdown pass to Sterling Shepard to tie the game at 35. I don't think it can be talked about enough what Baker Mayfield was doing and how difficult of a throw that was. Emeka Egbuka was doubled on that play, so he steps back, he reverses, he rolls to the left, and that is an extremely difficult pass for a right-handed quarterback to make. You're throwing over your body. He essentially has to separate his upper and lower body. His feet are off platform. He goes airborne, and yet he still is able to zip the pass in there to Sterling Shepard before the corner closes in, because I think essentially he was originally going to do a back shoulder fade, and then as he moves inside, Baker already has the ball there before the corner gets in. So just his awareness and his ability to extend plays on the move is just, he is playing elite football right now, and I think we see why he's a front runner in the MVP conversation.
29 of 33 is impressive passing in any occasion, but you think some of these 29 of 33, well, they probably did a lot of checkdowns. They probably did a lot of screen passes and high percentage throws. No, he's throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah.
He completed 3 passes for first down on 3rd and 11 or longer.
Yeah.
That's a hard down to complete a pass on.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, a lot of them went to Emeka Egbuka.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's very helpful for Baker to have them. And again, as we talk about the injury stuff, I think about last year when we said, oh, you're going to be maybe without Mike and Chris, and we just thought, like, the sky is falling when you hear that. And now, thanks to Emeka, I think of course, do you want all those guys? 100%. but I'm about to make it rain with Emeka numbers here, all right? So everybody tune in for
Get your umbrella.
whole bunch of numbers. All right, so first of all, caught all 7 targets towards him, had a 158.3 perfect passer rating from Baker when he was throwing to Emeka. Career best 163 yards on those 7 receptions with, of course, a touchdown and the 2-point conversion. So his 5 touchdown receptions through 5 career games are tied for the 8th most since the 1970 merger and are the most ever by a Buccaneers player. He's the first player in NFL history with at least 25 receptions, 400 receiving yards, and 5 or more receiving touchdowns in his first 5 career games. He also became one of 4 players over the last 50 years with at least 20 receptions, 300 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns through the first 5 career games. I mean, he also has, of course, the franchise record in his receptions and yards and touchdowns for the first 5 career games, which means that's more than Mike and Chris in their first 5 games, which incredible. When you have any kind of franchise record as a wide receiver, that is insane because of the fact that basically number 1 and 2 on almost all those spots are held by Mike and Chris.
Yeah.
I just have been blown away by the fact that he was the most hyped rookie I remember in forever, and he has exceeded that hype. And I just think the way he's handling it, his maturity, and watching the way the guys talk about him, it is so cool. And I had Graham Barton on my show on Monday, and I was asking him about Emeka, and he's like, it's almost like he's too good. Like, okay, we get it, man. We get it. You're good. You're good. And I love that they're already feeling like they can just kind of joke about this. Of like, he's unbelievable. And so, again, the timing, just as much as everybody thought we were going defense with that first round pick, now it just seems like they could see the future and know that, not only was he going to be amazing, but turns out we needed another wide receiver this year.
Sure, yep.
So I think it's been incredible.
Where would we be without him right now?
Probably not 4-1. Yep, not 4-1. I think that's a safe bet. Who knows what it would be, but I don't think we'd be 4-1. So then another recap point for you, of course, outside of Emeka, we had Rashad to thank for a lot of the rest of that offense and especially those touchdowns.
I mean, compared to the numbers you guys are throwing out, 71 yards from scrimmage doesn't seem that crazy, right? That's what he had. But that included 2 touchdowns, which are obviously crucial. And he had the run on 3rd and 7 where he got 12 yards and then slid down to stop the clock.
Right.
Smart play, of course. But getting 12 yards on 3rd and 7, instead of having to kick a 50-yard field goal, we ended up kicking a 38-yard field goal. And I know Chase McLaughlin obviously can make it from 50, but don't you feel a lot better from 38?
For sure.
And then, afterwards, everybody's saying, oh, by the way, he also had a lot of great blitz pickups. So not huge numbers, but a really great game by Rashad.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more recap of that game. And, of course, also looking forward to our game against the 49ers next week when we come back. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here. We are continuing our recap of that win in Seattle. We just talked offense. Now I wanted to hit the defensive side of things. Cornerback. We know you love to talk about this every year. Never can have too much cornerback depth. This is like what I always say, we will put on your tombstone. Tell me what stands out to you about Jacob Parrish in particular and the way that he has added to this DB room when they've been dealing with some injuries lately.
Well, in addition to cornerback depth, another topic I love to talk about is Rondé Barber.
Yes.
And he basically pioneered this role that Jacob Parrish played in this last game. He was playing primarily out of the slot and playing about 2/3 of the snaps because of that in the first 4 games. In this game, with both Benjamin Morrison and Jamel Dean out, he started in base packages on the outside along with Zion. But then when we went to nickel, he moved into the slot, and Kendall Vildor played on the outside. And I think he drew a PI call, but Todd Bowles said he thought it was actually good coverage. It's just impressive what this guy is doing as a rookie. Just playing these dual roles and handling up so well in all of them.
Yeah, and then of course the reason that nickel spot is kind of open now is because of the fact that Tyke Smith, who was manning that last year, has been moved to safety and has shown that he can play both at an incredibly elite level.
Well, he recorded his first fumble recovery against Seattle, and then he also had 6 tackles. He had 2 passes defense, leads the Bucs in tackles, and I think really throughout the course of the season, he's been one of the Bucs' most consistent defenders. Played with urgency, had several plays where he diagnosed really quickly, flew across the field, made the tackle, but just his downhill presence, his quick trigger against the run, and I feel like he's really allowed, as we've talked about, Antoine Winfield Jr. to really play kind of that, to really maximize his range kind of deep in the post at that free safety position, kind of allowing Tyke Smith to really do what he does best around the line of scrimmage.
You said he leads the team in tackles, which he does. He also leads the team in passes defense with 6, and that's an unusual combination.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows the varied ways that he's
Versatility,
making an impact on this defense.
I like that. And then now I wanted to address special teams, the final piece for this game. Some highs and lows, to put it
This
mildly.
seems to be something we're doing every week
Again,
as well.
the theme of
Yes.
the highs and lows of special teams. And it feels like every week there's one part. They talk about like all 3 phases of the game, meaning offense, defense, special teams. I'm thinking of it as we need to get all 3 phases of special teams on the same page, because you have punting, you have kicking, and then you have kind of your return game. And it seems like every week we have one that ends up being great and then one that struggles, or 2 and 1. And this week it was obviously Chase, incredible, 3 of 3 field goals, including the game winner.
And he didn't feel well.
And his flu game, which is even more incredible, and is now 11 of his last 12 on field goal attempts, including 2 game winners. He's 3rd in total field goals made in the league right now. But then, of course, on your return game, you allowed a 43-yard kickoff return and a 50-yard kickoff return. And, of course, that's putting your defense in just some really rough spots, especially with the legs that kickers have. I mean, you're basically starting in field goal range at that point. So that was definitely a tough part of the game that they're going to have to clean up. And then, we've had some issues of punts getting blocked, but I really wanted to shout out Riley Dix in this game, of especially he said the week before the game in a presser, you can always get better until you're pinning them at the 1. Well, guess what? Pinned them at the 1. And shout out to Josh Hayes for doing that. An incredible play right there next to the goal line, not missing it, not hitting it back in there where it becomes a touchback. And so I wanted to at least shout that out. So we had the punting and the kicking part. We just got to get that return game. We need all 3 of those special teams phases moving forward.
It's crazy often players mess up that play by the goal line.
Yes.
But he got it
I think
right.
they get so excited. That's what I'm imagining. It's like, I'm going to get it. And then it's almost like a guy dropping an interception because he's already looking at where he's going. That's what I imagine. All right, we're going to take another break, and then we're going to start looking ahead to that 49ers game when we come back. Welcome back into Insider. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Bree Dix. All right, so looking forward to the 49ers. As I thought about what I wanted to talk about, I feel like what stood out to me is I feel like the Spider-Man meme where we're looking at them and they're looking at us like, wait.
Yeah.
Because they've also had some dramatic last-minute wins. They've also had infinity injuries and are also sitting at 4-1 despite that. I'm like, look at this, the 2 Bay Areas.
Each other a little bit,
the 2 Bay Areas figuring out how to make it work.
These 2 teams have played a combined 10 games, and every single one of them has come down to 1 score.
So here we are again. You just already know. We're going to have this again this week.
Bucs have a point differential of +3, and they have a point differential of +8, and we're both 4-1.
That's crazy. So for them, especially, injury is a big part of it. So we know they're without George Kittle and Nick Bosa, which very helpul.
Yeah.
We never want to wish injuries on anyone, but man, those are 2 very impactful people.
Yes.
Like, I am not upset they're not playing against us. You would have thought, so they played on Thursday night, and I was like, man, this sucks. Like, they're going to have gotten those extra days of rest. Maybe they'll get more people back. As of their Wednesday injury report, it does not look like that extra rest did as much as they would have hoped. Yeah, so 12 people either did not practice or were limited for them on Wednesday, and that doesn't even include, Kittle and Bosa and guys that are out on IR. So, we aren't sure the Brock Purdy versus Mac Jones thing of who it's going to be. Brock Purdy didn't practice, but Mac Jones was also limited, which is kind of wild for them. I talked to Coach Bowles during the show this week about the 2 guys and not knowing which one it would be and what that might mean for the defensive game plan. So let's listen to what he said.
I think both are highly intelligent. I think with Brock, he goes down the field a little bit more. He's probably a better athlete than Mac. Mac kind of deciphers plays very well, just like Brock does, and he does a heck of a job throwing it to the right person and getting them in the right play and directing the offense. So he runs the offense very well. So between the 2, just got to prepare for the scheme and see which one plays.
So yeah, as of right now, what do we know about which one of those guys we think it's going to be?
Well, they had a bonus practice because, as you said, they played on Thursday, so they had the weekend off. On Monday, Brock Purdy didn't practice. On Wednesday, Brock Purdy didn't practice. But General Manager John Lynch came out yesterday and said that they feel pretty confident that Mac Jones is going to be okay. So he got pretty banged up in the last game and is on their injury report, but I think they're confident he'll play. So it looks more like we're leaning toward a Mac Jones start.
Yeah, and as Bowles said, both guys bring some really great things, and we've seen that Mac Jones has been playing well. He
sure has.
Throwing a lot still. They're not trying to not have him throw a lot as a backup. He's been averaging over 40 passes in his 3 games played, 6 touchdowns and 1 interception, which is not too shabby. But then, of course, they have Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, both of their wide receivers also didn't practice on Wednesday. So he did seem to have good chemistry with Bourne, as one of their backup guys. And also, I thought this was an interesting stat. I found a website that covers the 49ers that said they have more money tied up to players that are on injury lists than any other team in the NFL. So this isn't even people like Brock Purdy because he's just, on the injury report. This is like your NFIs, your PUPs, your IR people. They have $55 million tied up in people that are on those lists.
So it's important players.
So
those are
it's
some
important
cornerstone
players.
guys.
Yeah. So I just thought that was very interesting. So I know, of course, I haven't even mentioned Christian McCaffrey.
Speaking of cornerstone guys.
Speaking of cornerstone people,
Well, Christian McCaffrey, we know him well from his years in Carolina, and we've faced the 49ers pretty frequently lately. Obviously, one of the best running backs in the league. He's healthy again this year. He leads the league in yards from scrimmage with 669, and he's fifth among all players, not running backs, in receiving yards. He's done more damage in the passing game than the running game so far this season. And, the Buccaneers, as I said, have a pretty long history against him, and it's kind of gone both ways. We've had 6 different games out of the 10 we played him where we've held him to 60 or fewer rushing yards. But then other games he's gone crazy, like as he did in 2022 when they blew us out, and he had 153 yards and 3 TDs. So it's quite a battle.
Yeah, and then we haven't even really dove into the defensive side of things. There's no Nick Bosa, but there is a Fred Warner.
Yes, well, and he leads the Niners in tackles with 50, which is third in the NFL. Future Hall of Fame linebacker, but I think one of the biggest things that he's touted for is just his coverage ability in both man and zone over the middle of the field, his sideline-to-sideline range, plays with intent, but also just his instincts, but his understanding of reading the quarterback's eyes. And I thought it was really interesting, Rachaad White on his Top 100 video was saying that in the past, the Bucs have literally created plays to try and trick Fred Warner and to get him in congestion. And a lot of times he still makes the play. That's the kind of elite player that the Bucs are dealing with.
It's just rude. That's unbelievable. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back with one more segment on Bucs Insider. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Time for our final segment here, and we have some stats. We got the Scott Smith segment, as I like to refer to it. Next Gen is always so fun, and this game definitely had some interesting stats to it.
Well, we've already talked about Baker's incredible stats and how he's thrown the ball downfield, and that's actually been something he's been doing a lot, and that's something that Josh Grizzard told us in the offseason that they're going to try to incorporate more in the offense. So look at here. This was before the game. Going into the game, he had attempted more downfield passes, which travel in the air more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage on 37.4% of his throws, second only to Lamar Jackson. So already going into the game. We got that, right?
Yeah.
Now, it went to another level in this game.
Yes.
He was 9 of 11. Here's the chart. This is like where he's throwing the ball. He was 9 of 11 on passes of 10 or more air yards for 227 yards. And look at the completion rate over expected overall. That's the number in the lower corner there. That's what CPOE means. That means they look at the play, should the pass have been completed, and then what's the completion percentage and what did he actually get? And that means he completed passes that your average quarterback was not making.
Wow. He made a joke on the sideline. We posted a video of the guys talking, and he jokingly told Emeka that he should have even thrown it further to him on one of them, and he said, I got to get in the weight room.
Yeah, that was the one that he caught at the 2.
I thought that was
It
pretty
went
yeah.
64 yards in the
Yeah,
air.
that's why
I think it worked out
I think
okay.
you're okay, Baker. I think we're doing just fine. And then also, you gave some pretty good fantasy advice last week.
Yeah.
You said start Rachaad White.
Start Rachaad White.
That was a
Maybe
good
that
call.
wasn't like all that hard to figure out, but he scored the 2 touchdowns, 71 yards from scrimmage. He had about 4 catches. Depending on your scoring, he probably was somewhere in the 18 to 22 point range. That's pretty good. That's a running back 1 right there.
Yep.
So this week, I don't really have somebody to pull. I would start Rachaad again, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was just thinking, if you're in like a 10-team league, there were so many good quarterbacks left, and maybe you picked somebody like Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson as your number 1, but you ended up also getting Baker Mayfield, and he's been on your bench. If you got Baker Mayfield on your team now, you need to put him in
that
the
man.
starting
Yeah,
roster.
start that
He is
man.
the 3rd highest scoring quarterback in fantasy right now behind Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And that's because, obviously, the 10-to-1 touchdown interception ratio and the fact that he adds you some value in most games with his legs. So put him in the lineup. Also, Cade Otton, if you got him, is he relevant? He's only 2% rostered in NFL.com. He's close. I would say I'd give it another game or two and see if this keeps up.
Yeah, I think now it's fair to say that he's off the honorary offensive line member track and getting to actually run a few more routes. And again, if Chris isn't in there, we saw Cade was the guy last year.
That's true.
When both of those guys were out, Cade was the guy. And so I do think if Chris is out, that makes it even more likely.
He had 100 yards in that Baltimore game where they both got hurt, so you're absolutely right. Maybe pick Cade out and up now.
Yeah, while he's not rostered.
Put him on your bench for a week or two and see how it goes, and then if he keeps doing this, then get him in there.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us on another edition of Buccaneers Insider. Thanks so much for being with us, and enjoy this game on Sunday.